Hello all you RTS loving cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be taking a review look at Sudden Strike 4, the latest installment into the Sudden Strike RTS series. Of course, this follows Sudden Strike 3, which was pretty much a disappointment all round. So coming into this, I had slight anticipation to see if developers Kite Games and publisher Calypso could pull off a comeback to the fourth installment. The answer to that question is yes, but it is flawed at the same time. I think that this installment brings some really major improvements over the last installment, but still lets itself down in several major areas. The single player campaign basically gives you a ton of content with 3 campaigns, one for the Allied troops, one for the Soviets, and one for German forces. And each mission has a variety of length, different objectives. You're never going to be doing the exact same thing. You know, there's D-Day on there, there's the Battle of Stalingrad on there. You can also choose your legendary commander, which will affect what troops that you have on the battlefield, as well as your own progression. So you earn stars after you've completed an objective, and you can use those stars to purchase various upgrades under that commander. Each commander has their own doctrine, so one's going to be an infantry doctrine, one's going to be a armored doctrine, and the other one's going to be a support. And I always preferred the infantry because that's just my thing, and plus for the Allied it's the only British commander there. For the most part, that all works fairly well, and the progression is, I would say, limited, a little bit shallow, but it's nice to have it there at the end of the day. When you actually get into the battles themselves, especially in the single player campaign, what I absolutely loved about Sudden Strike 4 is that each map and each level has been handcrafted, which means that you're never going to get the same battlefield twice. Everything is going to be unique. There's going to be, within the map itself, really affects the gameplay in multiple ways, and I'll go into that in a second. But what it means is that each map and each level is going to be a unique experience, requiring different tactics and of course requiring different troops. The thing that I love about the environments most of all is that, one, a lot of the environments are destructible, including buildings. Early on in the Soviet campaign, there's this fantastic battle where you're basically escorting a convoy, and it's taking place over a frozen lake. And you can actually shoot the ice, break the ice under the enemy troops, and all of the enemy troops will fall to a watery grave. And there's just moments like that throughout Sudden Strike 4 that are just really nice little gameplay moments and just add a little bit of tactical depth where needed. Now, Sudden Strike has always been a slower RTS. It's more of an RTS combined with a tactics game, whereby you don't have base building, you don't have much in the way of reinforcements unless otherwise directed within the level itself. And it's a case of you start with what you start with, and each unit has an inherent value because you want to keep them alive, because there's no infinite supply of any given unit. So you're progressing slowly through any given battlefield, making tactical choices, where to attack, where to hold back, where to hold. And it's about using each unit to its advantage against the enemy troops. You know, there's things like cover for infantry units, you know, there's things like repair vehicles for tanks. So each tank, and one thing I loved about in particular the units, was the level of detail within each unit. So tanks have their own layers of armor, whereby you can see the armor fall off a tank when it's hit. If you roll over a landmine with a tank, the tank isn't instantly destroyed, but the tracks are ruined, so you're stuck in that place until you can repair that vehicle. And there's just little things like that that just really add to the variety and the enjoyment of Sudden Strike 4. The problem is it lets itself down in several areas. The first is the UI. The UI is god-awful. It does nothing to rectify the issues of the previous games, including unit management. There's no easy way to group a particular units within any given moment, and it's just clunky, it's overbearing, it's ugly, and it does nothing. It directly contradicts almost the rest of the game, because the rest of the game visually is actually quite a treat, and then you have this garish UI that just puts you off and actually offers no real intuitive gameplay in that sense. My biggest problem with Sudden Strike 4 is not that it's a bad game, because it actually isn't. It just doesn't do anything to an exceptional quality to stand out. It pretty much does everything well for the most part, but does nothing even better than that, and it struggles to really shine against when you put it up in direct comparison to its competition like Company of Heroes. And the problem with that is that when you get to the price point of the title, you end up having a real dilemma, because Sudden Strike 4 is $50, whereas Company of Heroes is round about $20 to $30. So you're paying $20 more for, I would argue, a lesser experience. Not a bad experience, but certainly a lesser one, because it doesn't have the atmosphere of Company of Heroes. It doesn't have a lot of the gameplay mechanics of Company of Heroes, and it really struggles up to live up to that level of quality that Company of Heroes provides. So when you directly compare it to its competitor, the game really struggles to hold up. Now, when you couple that fact with the fact that the multiplayer is fairly lackluster, it doesn't really do anything that you could write home about, and the fact that the 3 campaigns, while very enjoyable, they have a nice story, the sound design is very good, the graphics are very good, the gameplay for the most part is fairly good, but it doesn't really hit that high quality. You're left with an experience that I feel is overpriced, and I would certainly recommend anyone interested in Sudden Strike 4 to pick it up on a sale. You know, if Sudden Strike 4 was priced at $30, then it might be worthwhile, but you have round about 20 single player missions coupled with a multiplayer that really isn't going to go anywhere or stick with a majority of large of a player base, and so you don't have that much replayability in there. And I think that when you can pick up a game like Company of Heroes for a lot cheaper, I think you're going to struggle to justify the price point, which for me directly affects how much enjoyment you can get out of the game, especially when the entire time, especially for big Company of Heroes fans, you're going to be sitting there going, I wish this was Company of Heroes. It's not to say it is a bad game. I think it is a very big marked improvement upon the last installment. I certainly hope that they continue to make those improvements. I think if you just really improve things like the UI, things like the control scheme, things like the ability to group characters and select individual units, and more accuracy on formations and unit placement, what you'll end up having is an even better experience that could potentially justify a $50 price point. And I think that, you know, maybe Sudden Strike 5 will get there, but for the most part, it's definitely one to pick up on sale. And that is my review of Sudden Strike 4. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe, and as always, I will see you next time.